Hello, welcome to Record Time. I am, as always, happy to be here, and I'm excited to dive right in. Today, the topic that has presented itself is guilt, and I don't know why. I feel like almost giddy, like so excited to talk about this. I was like laughing before I started the video, which is weird and ironic, but that's the energy that's coming through the records. And I can feel there's like this like kind of dancing, kind of like celebratory energy around guilt. So I have no idea what is going to happen, but we shall see what they have to say. But they seem pretty psyched to talk about guilt today. So, here we go. While I tune into this message, feel free, if you are able to, if it's accessible and if it's safe, to close your eyes and indulge in a deep breath. And just allow yourself to arrive here as we tune into this energy. And these transmissions, while they are verbal, they are also energetic. So if you want to set the intention to receive the energetic transmission that goes along with this verbal transmission, you can choose to do so. So I'm asking the Akashic Records, the masters, teachers, and loved ones, what is the nature of guilt? They're saying, hello, hi, nice to see you. They are saying that guilt is your hilarious ally. And it's like, guilt is that like super dramatic, like drama queen friend that is just always with you. And it's there to kind of, it's not there to drag you down. Like, they're showing me guilt as, they're showing me guilt as this like sassy, okay, my connection was a little lagging. Hopefully that fixed it. But yeah, guilt is this like friend who's just always with you to just remind you that like no matter how you look at a situation, it's all good. And this seems like totally backwards with how we think about guilt, but it's true. It's like, and they're saying like the way we relate to guilt is so sometimes, okay, yeah, they're saying like it's super extra, like the way that we feel and relate to guilt is so extra, because a lot of the times something happens and or something doesn't even happen and we feel guilty about it, and we like bring up this guilt, and this like sassy queen guilt is just there like being super dramatic about it, and no one else like feels that way. No one else feels that way at all. It's just guilt showing up, being kind of dramatic about it, and kind of stealing the spotlight. And it's like, it's just another way to look at things, and sometimes it serves us and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes guilt serves us, but sometimes we put too much focus on it, and we don't really need to be doing that. We don't need to be relating to guilt in that way. But they're showing us, like they're showing me that guilt is like almost half the time, if not more, it's just an internal condition. There's nothing on the outside that's really catalyzing the guilt. And they're saying, like, think about it. Like, we feel bad about things that we don't even do, and we feel bad about doing things and upsetting people, or we go out of our way to prevent ourselves from feeling guilty. And that's like, guilt is like heavily tied to people pleasing, and it's also tied to martyrdom too. It's like people can manipulate other people due to guilt, and you can allow yourself to be manipulated because of the fear of guilt. And so they're saying, like, if you stop giving guilt so much power, you will have so much more energy. It's like you'll be able to relate to things with a lot more clarity. And there's really no reason to fear it. It's so interesting because it's not an external condition all the time. It usually just is something that we bring upon ourselves. And I can think of several instances where I feel bad about something, and I am like asking the person that I like did something to or whatever, even if it's by mistake or accident, if I do something wrong, I'll apologize, and they'll say, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. And then I'll keep apologizing, and then I'll continue to feel bad about it for a long time after the person that I feel bad about, like, upsetting is already over it. It never really bothered them in the first place. They're fine, and I'm still feeling guilty about it. So they're saying, like, don't let guilt steal the show, but also don't be afraid of guilt. You can feel the guilt, and you can feel the guilt and reckon with the guilt, address it if it's there, but you don't have to keep hiding from it, and you don't have to keep feeding the guilt when really nothing is wrong. And it's really interesting. Like, the example they're giving is, like, if I went to a party and the host was very gracious and I dropped a plate and it broke, I know that I would feel super bad about it, and I would do exactly what I said. I would just keep apologizing again and again, and they would probably be like, oh, it's fine, and they'll just like sweep it up, it's gone, and then the rest of the party, my experience of the party is ruined because all I'm thinking about is how I broke the plate and how I feel bad about it. But there's not even a trace that a plate was broken. No one else is thinking about it. The host doesn't care. Like, it's fine. But I'm just like feeling super bad about it. And they're even showing like instances where like guilt is like that, like, super extra friend. So I can imagine, like, okay, that party ends, and then I go home, I'm feeling bad about it, and then the next time that person throws a party and I go, I'll probably, out of guilt, still feeling bad about it, be like, oh, remember that time I was here last time and I broke a plate? I'm so sorry about that. And just like out of like nervous guilt, just bringing it up for no reason. And that person could easily be like, oh, I don't even remember that. Like, you broke a plate? That's so funny. Okay. So this feeling of guilt can haunt us if we let it, if we don't know how to deal with it. So it's important that we like are fluid in our way of relating to guilt. It's not always necessary, and it's not always like as bad as we think it is. A lot of the times we play it up in our mind, like we're that dramatic version. We like exaggerate the situation and feel bad about it forever when we really don't need to. And so the question is, how do we reckon with our guilt? How do we relate to it and deal with it so it doesn't haunt us forever? What can we do? And they're saying the key to dealing with guilt, to managing it, to calming down that dramatic friend, is self-acceptance. if you can accept yourself, even when you've made a mistake, even when you've maybe hurt someone's feelings intentionally or unintentionally, or broken a plate, if you can just accept that you were flawed in that moment, or an accident happened, or that you were the conduit for chaos for a moment, if you can just accept that, there's no need for the guilt to linger for days or weeks or years. You can just kind of laugh and move on. And that's why they're saying guilt is the hilarious ally, because a lot of times when we feel guilty, we're just hyping up this like situation that wasn't really a big deal. Like we're just being that kind of hysterical like drama queen. And there are times where guilt is real and it plays a real role, but almost every time guilt is present, it's reminding us that we are humble humans. Humble humans. And that we didn't come here to be perfect. And while we are conduits for divinity and magic, we're also conduits for chaos sometimes. And that's okay. That experience of like absolute magic and synchronicity and flow that we're capable of has this like wonderful, lovely, like lively, really like earthy opposite of chaos. And that's fine. That's part of what we came here to experience. And again, they're saying we just have to create space for self-acceptance. That's the other thing. You don't have to do anything to accept yourself. You just have to create a little space for that self-acceptance to come in. So if you're feeling a lot of guilt, and maybe it's valid and maybe it's a little dramatic and funny, but sometimes, it is valid, and we really did do something wrong that may have hurt someone. You can just sit with yourself. You can just ask that dramatic friend to take a deep breath with you. And as you take that big inhale, you can almost see the space opening up in you for that self-acceptance to come in and neutralize the guilt. And it's not even that self-acceptance is like the cure to guilt. It's not the antidote to guilt. It's not the enemy of guilt. And guilt isn't a villain. Self-acceptance and guilt are friends. When guilt shows up, self-acceptance wants to be with it. Guilt always wants to be with self-acceptance. They want to go together. And when guilt shows up, it's an invitation for greater self-acceptance. So whenever you feel that guilt, let it serve as a reminder that self-acceptance wants to come and be with you. If guilt is there, self-acceptance also wants to be there. They go together. They are friends. They like to be with each other because they're the perfect pair. They neutralize each other. Self-acceptance is the one that can like hold guilt's hand and bring it down and keep its feet on the ground, and it's like, okay, you're getting a little too dramatic. It's okay. It's like it keeps guilt's head level and it keeps it playful. So that way guilt doesn't become overbearing. So you need the two to balance each other. Guilt is always coming in as like, it's like they're showing me as like guilt walks in to like scope out the party and make sure it's a good place for self-acceptance. And anytime guilt is there, self-acceptance wants to be there too. So that felt like a kind of chaotic transmission. It was like a little all over the place for me. So I really hope that that made sense. And I can see why they were like so jazzed and like excited to talk about guilt. I was so surprised that like light energy was coming through when they said the topic was guilt. But yeah, it's like a lot of the time it's not that big a deal. And if it is a big deal, the greater the feeling of guilt, it's like it's either an opportunity for like lighthearted self-acceptance, like just laughing at yourself and recognizing that you're human, or if it's like real heavy guilt, then that means it's an even greater capacity for self-acceptance to come in. So the bigger the guilt feels, the more self-acceptance that is available to you. You just have to be open to it. Alrighty. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. And I would love to connect with you. If you have any questions about this, or if you have any thoughts about this, I'd love to hear what you think. You can feel free to send me a message on Instagram, or I'd love if you connected with me on my new website. It's minaruchi.com. And you can contact me there, and I'd love to hear from you. Alrighty. I wish you a beautiful week. Until next time. Have a lovely, lovely evening. Namaste.